you. I'm just going to build aux. So should only take a few seconds. Building it for debug. Building it for profile. And building it for release. Okay. With this out of the way, we are going to create a new project. And we're going to use two extensions today. The first one is a new extension called SNDH. It's a file format for the Atari ST audio from back in the 80s, 90s. So I recently added an extension thanks to the work of Leonard. It's interesting audio format, as in actually use like some emulation to emulate part of the Atari ST to be able to play the audio. So it is more advanced than just like producing audio from like a mod, but it's not much more expensive. It's still very, very light. And it also has the advantage that all those SNDH files are tiny. And when I say tiny, you'll see the one we're going to use today. There are like 10 tracks within a single file that is 11 kilobytes. So to the standard, it is definitely tiny. And the second extension we're going to check today is the cheat one, which is a new extension for supporting secret cheat codes, like the Konami code or things like this. And we will see how we can use it, both with keyboards and gamepads. So let's start a new project. We're going to put it in there, live 12. Let's call it like this. We're going to add the cheat extension and the SNDH extension. And that's all we need today. There we go. Live 12 in build, Windows, Visual 2022. And yeah, this little guy here. Okay, let's build it in debug. Profile, I don't think we're going to use it, but why not? And release. This one we're going to use. We're going to do our little usual changes so that it shows well on the stream. We're going to change the config. Going to remove this. And we're going to screen width 920, screen height 1080, monitor second one, it's a virtual monitor, and then we're going to render console font scale 3, and I believe that's the right parameter. Let's check it. Yeah, console is nice. Okay, so I'm already going with the music. So the first thing we're going to check is the SNDH file format, so the Atari ST audio file format. And here we can see that we have a scene. Here we're going to create a sound object, which is, like you can remove it because it doesn't matter right now. And we have like an object called SNDH, and it has a property called SNDH. And you can see here we ask for it to play RoboCod.SNDH. RoboCod as the James Bond 2 Codename RoboCod game, the music from Richard Joseph. And let's not put a second parameter right now. Let's just start it like this. So as you can see, it's playing. The older among you probably recognize the music from the game. And let's have a look at the file. So here we're just going to go to live 12. This might be a bit too small, but I don't know exactly how to zoom it. So hopefully it will be, I'm going to put large icons. Data, if you go to music, this file here, and we can see that this file is like 10 kilobytes, 11 kilobytes on disk. So it's really small. And in this file, there are multiple tracks. So actually, let me use this here. So that's a player written by the person who wrote the library I'm using to play the SNDH. And here there's like a lot of SNDH. If we look at the RoboCod SNDH and play it, okay, and see, there are 10 tracks inside that tiny file. So this one, the first one that you heard, the second one, it's this one, and there's like a bunch of them. I'm not sure why it's, yeah, there you go. So there are 11 tracks in it, and in order to be able to access them inside aux, we just have a second parameter where we can add track number. So if you don't put anything, by default it will play the first track inside. Otherwise, you can add the track number. Here it's going to be the second one that you heard earlier. And you can ask any of the tracks, this is the third one.
We're having issues hearing the music proper.
Oh, okay. So the music is not playing well. Let me check why. You don't hear at all, or like too low or something?
I think it's too low.
It's too low. Okay. Let's remove this. And let's bump the audio from the desktop. Okay. How about now? Is it better or not really?
Yeah, it sounds a bit like it's in a tunnel. Does anybody else think it sounds like that?
I wonder. Let me see. If I remove this. Okay, let's try this again.
Yep, much more clear.
Okay. So that was the AI noise filter on Discord. Sorry. Well, so you will have a bit of white noise coming from my fan. Sorry about this. But at least you will have a better sound audio. So let me just change a bit the volume here so that I don't blast your ears every time. So let's go back to what I was demonstrating. By default, it's going to play the first track, which is this one. That maybe now you would recognize if you are familiar with the game. And of course, if you want to play other track, you just put it as a second parameter. So this is the second track in that SNDH file. And hopefully now it plays and you can listen to it.
Sounds perfect.
Excellent. That was just to demonstrate it. Anyway, I'm not here to have you listen to the music. And actually, I'm going to remove the music because every time I'm going to start the application, otherwise it's going to become like very annoying. So that was just to let you know that, yeah, aux does support SNDH file format now, in addition to the Scream Tracker S3M, the Pro Tracker, and the default mode, Fast Tracker and Pro Tracker. Sorry. So if you have like any old school modules that you want to play with aux, you should be covered now. XM, S3M, Mod, and SNDH. Those are the 4 formats that are supported at the moment. Let's move on to the new cheat extension. So here you see that there's actually like a couple of cheats I ship with the extension in a new project just to demonstrate how it works. You put your cheats in cheats section, and then you define what the cheat trigger is, like the sequence that the user has to input. And as a value, it's the command that's going to be executed when the user trigger that cheat. So here, for example, you can see there's one called love is aux, and if I run it, there we go. And if I type love is aux, up, you can see that in the log, there's been congratulations, you found the secret cheat code, which is here. It says log this sentence, and every time I type love is aux, it's going to happen. And you can even interrupt it with something else, or love is, and type it again, love is, my typo, love is aux, and at every time you complete the sequence in one one streak, it's going to trigger that command. You can put any command, obviously, and you can add any sequence as well. You can also support sequence of inputs like gamepad inputs, and for those you just have to use the colon separator. So here you can see that I put a sequence which is up, up, down, down, left, right, BA. Some of you might recognize this one, as it's a rather famous one. And here if I run this one, so I don't have a gamepad plugged, but it will not only listen to the gamepad, but also like for the keyboard. So if I press up, up, down, down, left, right, B and A on the keyboard, up, you can see there's a log command that's been there. What did you expect here? And that was exactly what was bound to this input. So here you can really add anything, and that will trigger any command of your choice. There's a new command coming with it. You can see it as cheat enable. So you can enable or disable the cheat on the fly. So if I say cheat enable false, and I try love is aux, nothing happens. Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, nothing happens. And if I re-enable the cheats, now it's back. Up. That was the Konami codes and love is aux. There we go. And you can add anything there and enable them when you want. So it might be nice like for debugging, or also for like Easter eggs, these kind of things. The module is the extension is very simple, as you're going to see, and it's also very easy to retrofit in an existing project. It's a single file called aux.cheat. Yeah, it's not a very long file, like about 400 lines. What it does, when it inits, it's going to look at the cheats section, and it's going to build a finite state machine using the config as support. And we can actually see what happens by serializing the config. We're going to do that in a second. And it comes with really 3 functions. Init that you call during your initialization, exit at the exits, and you can enable or disable. So like the integration inside the file, all you have to do is include the cheat, call the init during your init, and call the exit during exits, and that's it, nothing else. And now if we run it, and we're going to save the config, check me, INI. So I saved the entire config into a file called check me. We're going to put it here. Give me a second. I'm going to navigate. I lost my window. Yeah. To the bin folder, and there's a check me file here. So this is the entire config at the time of saving, and we can see that that all the color mapping. There's a lot of them. There we go. We have a new input set called aux input cheat, where we bind all the alphanumerical keys on the keyboard, and we also bind the arrows, the numpad, and we also bind all the buttons for the first third joystick. So A, B, X, Y, the bumper, trigger, back start, and so on and so forth. So all those inputs are bound for you in that input set, and that's what is used to check the progress of your sequence. And then we have the root of our finite state machine, like our graph, and the root is called cheat. And in each node, there will be the name of the input and what is the next node if that input is triggered. So we can see here, if we start with L, it's going to bring us to a state called cheat L. If we're in cheat L, we press O, it's going to bring you to the next state, which is cheat LO, and you can see so on and so forth until we reach love is aux. And here there's no more inputs, there's actually something called a command. So that means that it's a lift node, and when we reach a lift node, we're just going to execute the command that's been stored. And it's going to build this finite state machine with all the inputs. So it looks a bit like a prefix tree, basically. And that's it. So if we add another one, so let's say that we are going to go with another classic. Here I want another one. So the sequence are case insensitive. So like if I do something, it will still work even if it's typed all lowercase. So let's log God mode and run it. And now we're just going to verify. Yep, it's working here. And if I were to save the config, we can see that we have a new one starting with an I, and this one is going to bring us to the IDDQD for our God mode. So yeah, that's basically it for the cheat extension. Is there any questions regarding this? I will take that as no. So let's stick with config. As you might know, we have recently added typo checks for the configs. And now we can actually like turn on or off these checks. There is a function, let me just illustrate it here. If we go aux config, there's an enable typo check. And you can disable or enable that check at runtime if you need it. Like sometimes you only like have like a config section, config properties that are only like 1 or 2 letters apart. And you don't want the typo check to trigger if those properties are optional and not always present. So you can disable it before doing your config query and re-enabling it. And there's another function that goes with it, which is typo check enabled, so that you can actually like store the previous state, change to like enable or disabling, and restore the previous state before. And in addition to this, there's there is a command called asValue in the config. And this one has now a third parameter, which is a typo check. By default, it's set to true, but you can request that check to be false. So let's illustrate this. Let's set test, I don't know, property 12. If I say config as value test and I make a typo, like, I don't know, property 12, you can see that here it says, oh, property was found instead of requested key property, is a typo. But if I were to say that I don't want the check to happen, nothing will happen here. Oh, wait, config as value, key, typo check. Okay, so what did I mess up here? Is it something obvious I don't see? Oh, wait. Why do I have a 12 here? That was wrong. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, if I want to say config as value test property, there is no 12. I'm not sure why I put 12 here. This one says, okay, there's a typo. Is that what you want? And here at the third parameter, you can say, no, I don't want it. And you can see that nothing happens if it's set to false or 0. But if I set it to true, the typo check is done. Or if I don't set it, the typo check is done as well. So yeah, that's it on this one. Any questions regarding the typo check? It's just a small change. Okay, next, let's go back to something that we've seen in the past, but I don't think it's in the wiki, or if it's in the wiki, it's easy to miss. There is a command called system that allows you to query which version of orcs you're running. And there are 5 properties for it. You can know if it's been, what kind of build it is. So actually, you know what? Let's demonstrate it live. So the function is called system. And there's an alias with sys, like you see, Config.GetSystem. Same thing if you type system, it's an alias to Config.GetSystem. And you can query, like for example, if I want the build, it tells me that this is a debug build. I can ask it, what is the platform? Platform is Windows. I can ask, what is the bits of the CPU? or actually what is a CPU, processor. Or I can even ask for the endianness, and those are the 5 properties. So build, platform, bits, processor, endianness. You can ask to get the value, or you can check if its value is set or not. Like if I say, sys is debug, it says true. Is it release? Nope, that's not a release. So you can query directly based on the result instead of asking for the attribute. And you can make some divergence, like for debug only builds, for example. And let's give a small example on this. But first, when we go back to the config, when we include files, so hopefully you are all familiar with how to include file in aux, like let's say override.ini. Fair enough. And then we're going to create that file. Okay. So in this file here, we're going to override what's been defined here. So let's say that our object, for example, we're going to, not sure what happened there. Okay, we're going to say its color is now red. There is no more fx list. And angular velocity of 0. And let's see what happens. Yeah, you can see we overrode, sorry, my English. The properties for the object have been overridden. And instead of having like a spinning object with changing colors, now it's a red static object because of the override.ini that we included at the end. But something that is a bit less known is that those includes can be conditional. So in order to do so, you can put a condition before the question mark and then the name of the file. And in this condition, you can run any kind of command. And of course, you can also run the sys command. So let's say I want to run sysdebug and only run the override for the debug version. And if I do this, you can see that it's been included here. If I were to run the release version, there's been no override because sysdebug returned false here. So you can have like conditional include like this, which is very nice to be able to support like multiple platforms. Let's say if you want to have something different when you publish on Android versus when you publish on Windows or Mac, you can easily do it with this and with overrides. And there is also a shortcut. So for everything that is a sys command, you can actually just give the property. So like debug override. In release, it's going to return false. But in debug, it's going to return true. And it's going to override our object. But you can run any command here. Like, let's say, for example, we have like, I don't know, like a section called main. And I have a property that I'm going to call override. And I say to true. And here I'm going to say, okay, I want get main override. Oops. And you're going to see that here is going to override. But if my property here was like false, there's no override going on. And of course, those properties can be changed at runtime. So that makes it very easy to support like different configuration without having to rely just on the debug versus profile versus release with a separate file. The conditional include is very convenient for this kind of thing. So both for debug and supporting multiple platforms. Is there any... Oh yeah, last thing I wanted to say is that it's case insensitive. So like the debug one we saw earlier, if I write it like this for the property, the properties are... The attributes is case sensitive, but the value is case insensitive. Like we can see here, debug still return true, even though it was spelled fancy. Is there any questions regarding the system command or conditional overrides? Also something to note is that at the top of the template files, this conditional include system is explained. That's basically what I just showcased right now. You can have like a quick summary at the top of the template files. Okay, then let's move on to the next topic. this one is going to be a bit more advanced. We are going to talk about like fixed target resolution. So like, for example, you want to target a given resolution because your assets were meant for that resolution. And then you want to be able to upscale or downscale on top of this. There is a very simple way to achieve this, and we're going to review this. So by default here, in our live, let me remove the override. And actually, to illustrate this, we're going to have something a bit more fun than our rotating logo. So let's remove all this, and we're going to have our hero is going to come back. So let's copy the data for our hero. And conveniently enough, I have it here. And we're going to put it in live 12, data, texture. There you go. Hero, idle, and yeah, we're going to reuse that name. I did not rename it. So our hero has an animation set of himself. He has a start anim named idle. The frames are going to last, I believe it was meant for something like 30 frames a second, something like this. It's the idle is going to use the name with 4 digits. It's a PNG, if I'm not mistaken. That's PNG. And so there are 4 digits. So start anim, that's going to loop. Oh, we're going to say I want the pivot at the center. Did I miss anything? Well, we're going to find out. Yes, I missed something. What did I miss? Could not create frame. I have the key direction. I have the idle, the digits. Oh, right. I forgot the path. It's the path. It's in hero, idle. There we go. There we go. Our little guy is here. So this guy right now is rendering at 1080p because that's the size of our window. So if we have no way to like verify this, so we're going to introduce like a temporary, like an intermediate off-screen texture, and that's actually not just for checking, but it's also how we can like target a fixed resolution. It's by introducing an intermediate fixed size texture and rendering everything at this resolution, and then we can use that texture to upscale it or downscale it at will later down the line. And to do this, we are just going to ask for our main viewport to render to a texture. I don't know, let's call it off-screen. There we go. And we're going to create a new viewport. We're going to call it composite of final viewport. Why not? And here we could either like use a camera that could see an imposter object that's going to reuse the texture off screen, or we can just use the shader, which we're going to do for now because it's much simpler. Shader list ourselves. The code for that shader is going to be very simple. It's going to be void main and gl frag color equals texture 2D. We're going to call it text, gl text coord xy, and that's our shader. We need to say that we have one parameter, which is text, and text is basically our off-screen texture. Off-screen texture. I believe that's all we need here, and we're just going to create that viewport in our init here. So arcs viewport, create from config, final viewport. Oops. Okay. We can see there's a trail. It's because I did not give a background color, so it's going to keep the content of the texture without like flushing it. So here in the main viewport, we're going to say background color black, and that's going to get rid of that trail. Okay, so here we are back to square one visually, but that is not exactly what happened. Now we can actually verify what's going on, and we can like find that texture off screen. That texture has been created automatically by our by our main viewport, and if the main viewport gets deleted and no one is using that texture, it's going to be removed. So that texture, we can also save it. So like, let's save off screen. And here, if we go back to 512 bin. We should have an off-screen texture, and that texture is a 1080p, because right now we are targeting a 1080p window. But what if we were not like forcing our screen at a specific size? Let's go full borderless full screen. So no decoration, and it's going to use my desktop resolution, which is 1440p. So here it's covering my entire screen. And if I were to save that texture again, and if we are to look at the texture, we can see that now this texture here, it's a 1440p. So we are not rendering at a fixed 1080p resolution. We are actually now rendering at 1440p. And everything is upscaled on the fly, which might not be what we want, like especially when we're working with like pixel art, for example. Speaking of which, let's remove the smoothing. And let's see how we can fix that resolution. And it's very easy. In our viewport here, we're just going to give a size to that viewport. And because we give it the size, and let's target 1080p. There we go. You can see that now it's a bit more jagged, because we actually are rendered to 1080p and then upscaling later without the smoothing. And if we were to save that texture, sorry, I should remove my antivirus. It's scanning the file every time I'm starting them because I'm a different folder. I should add this folder as an exception so that it's a bit more smooth next time. Okay, going back to our screen texture, it's a 1080p texture. So now we are rendering at a fixed resolution, and that texture can be used anywhere. We can use to downscale, upscale, or do whatever we want, but the main rendering has been at a fixed resolution. And let's say that we want to target like low fidelity kind of pixel art, something like I don't know, like 320 to 40. Let's go old school, and you can see that our little guy has been like definitely squashed. Plus, it's not the same aspect ratio. I should have kept the same aspect ratio. It doesn't really matter here. Let's go even like lower, and yeah, we have a very interesting rendering at 120p right now. So if I look at the off-screen texture, you can see that it is tiny at 120p, and that's definitely what we're seeing, except that I don't use the same aspect ratio, so I should probably do something about it. If we were using, in the final viewport, instead of using a shader, if I were using the camera to see part of the screen, there would be proper pillar boxing or letter boxing to make sure that the aspect ratio is enforced. We can also like force the aspect ratio, like it's fixed ratio, I believe.
Does this trick imply a performance gain?
Yes, if you have a lot of objects that are going to be rendered, it will be lighter on the GPU. Are you going to notice a difference? Probably not. It will depend on your content and your scene. But yes, definitely. Upscaling a single object versus upscaling potentially 1,000 of them, there's definitely a bandwidth and performance consideration there. So it will be faster, but you are also like in the control of your resolution. You know that all the effects that you've like worked on, they are meant for like a specific resolution, and this is going to be enforced. If you played like a game like Braid, for example, Braid rendered at 720p, no matter the platform, and then once it's rendered off screen at 720p, it's going to do upscaling for the native resolution that you're using. So it removes a lot of unknown from the equation, in the sense that you're only targeting a very specific resolution, and all your assets are going to work for that resolution, and then you can decide to upscale. You can then prevent the squashiness either by using the fixed ratio or by using a camera and like let's do the camera approach. Let's see. I did not reverse it, but we're going to try it on the fly. Let's say we have a camera which is going to be the final camera, and our final camera is going to okay, so here we are at You know what? Let's put that 1920, 1080, and our final camera.
Excuse me?
Yes. Yeah.
They're mostly thinking of full screen mode. If you have a crazy big monitor, then this should reduce the GPU pressure, correct?
Yes, that is correct. But again, usually that's not where you're going to see the biggest impact when using ARCs, because we're rendering 2D sprites, right? So we don't have like, well, depends on how many objects you're going to render, obviously. But you are more likely going to be CPU bound before you're going to be GPU bound, unless you have crazy shaders. But yes, it is definitely a consideration to take into. Like if you have like very expensive shaders, you probably want to reduce the number of your fragment shader executed. So having like a fixed resolution for which you're targeting your performance analysis is going to make things easier. But nowadays, GPUs are usually like very powerful compared to 2D needs. Not saying that it's going to be the case for everyone, but in most cases, your CPU is likely to be the one that's going to be a bottleneck before your GPU, because we are rendering 2D, so we need to sort those 2D objects. There are ways to not ask for sorting them, like having separate groups and asking it to be row groups, like we've seen in the past, actually. I don't remember if it was the last one or the previous live session, but we did something similar. But by default, there will be sorting, and the sorting of those objects is what is going to be expensive on the CPU. So this is more likely to be the first performance bottleneck, if that answers the question. So yes, there is an advantage, but you might not see it. That's basically the gist of it. Okay, we're only at 5:40. You know what? I'm going not to do the camera. I'm going to leave it for like the viewers as a viewer exercise. I can revisit that next time if you want it to be, but it's just a matter of like creating a camera that's going to look at the world for an object with a different group, and that object is going to use a texture which is off screen. Instead of using a texture from file, just going to use the off-screen texture by name, and it's going to display in real time what is the content of the texture. There's actually an example on the wiki. If you're looking for the compositing article, there is a project and how to set it up, and it uses this approach. But given that we only have like 20 minutes left, I would like to jump onto the next topic, unless you really want me to do this. Okay, let's jump to the next one. Let's see. Did I break everything right now? Oh, like, yes, I did break everything. So because we don't want to check what it is, we're just going to go back. You know what? Let's go back to the beginning, because we're not going to use that guy anymore. So we're just going to stay here and remove that viewport from. There we go. Okay. So the next topic is how to handle loading and saving like save files or profiles or these kind of things. There are multiple ways of doing it, and depending on your situations, you might want to use one or the other. I'm going to demonstrate the main one, like for saving either next to the application or saving in a place where the OS tells you it's a good place to save your things, your save files. And then I will show you how to use the config, for example, for serialization. If your properties are very simple and you don't have like a lot of binary data, config is definitely a good choice for doing that serialization. And then I will show you how to do it like with your own format, like in binary, and save what you want. So let's get started. The first approach we're going to use is the config. So you seen earlier, like when I was doing like save. Oh, by the way, save is an alias for config.save. When I'm using save, it's going to dump the entire content of the config into a file, and then there's like dependent, which is loading. I can load a file, or I can include it as we've seen earlier. And that's what we're going to use to save our data. So let's do this. Let's say that we're going to add a couple of functions. And let's be very simple. We're going to have a save function and a load function. That's probably the first live session where I actually code things instead of just using data. So it's kind of interesting. Let's start simple. Orgs config save. We're going to save, call it live12.sav. We're not going to encrypt it right now, and we're not going to give it a filter callback. So if I were to do this, it's going to save right next to the executable. Let's say that we want to save in a place where it's appropriate for the OS, and each OS has a different place. There is a function in orgs called orgs file get application save directory. This one is going to tell you where is a good place to save files, and you can give it a subpath. Like for example, if I were to give it live12 save, it's going to return me the full path, including the live12 save, where I should write things. So let's do this, and we can do it like this, and we put a breakpoint. And of course, we should probably find a way to use it. So if orgs input has been activated, save, oops, and something for load. So we're going to add our inputs before I forget. We're going to say key space equal load, key enter, save. There we go. So if I run this, oh, I made a mistake here. There we go. Yes, I don't know how to count parentheses apparently. Okay. So if I press enter and we go into save, and you can see that here my path is going to be in my user and in app data, roaming, and then live save. So this is the full path, and I can definitely use that for saving. If I continue here, and if I look at where I have a live12 save, you can see, is there a way to zoom? Nope. Okay. You can see that it's in the app data roaming, and that's where our save file is. So let's continue with this, and we're going to, you know what? Where is my Sublime text? It's here. If we look at this, we can see that it's the config. So let's give it syntax. That's the entire content of the config right now, which is probably not what we want to say. We probably want to filter it. Let's keep it simple and say that what we want to filter is just what is in the save section. We can be more fancy and filter based on the section, based on the keys and combinations. We're just going to save everything in the save section. So there is a, like, if you come back here, it says that we need a callback, right? And that's the orgs config save function. So I'm going to get the prototype from the config header. Okay, where are you? That's a prototype. Okay. So coming back to the live here. That's a prototype I copied. So on bool, we're going to call it filter. And there we go. And we're going to pass it. Yeah. So here we're just going to say if the section name is saved, then go for it. No matter what the key name is, the file name, or the encryption. We could use that for like doing more advanced choices. Here we just want to say save everything that's inside. So orgs string compare save. So if this returns non-zero, we don't want to save, and if it returns 0, means that it's identical, we want to save. Okay, we have a filter now. And what did I make? Function does not take one argument. Of course not. What did I do? I forgot to put the parameter. That section name. There we go. So saving, pressing enter, going to remove that breakpoint, we save. Let's look at the content of our file right now. There's nothing. Of course, there's nothing. We have nothing in the save function. So let's put something in save. Let's say our score right now, I don't know, 13 points. We have a score. I'm going to save again. Up, we can see that it's been serialized. We have save score equals 13, which is nice, but if we want it to be a bit more secure or like harder for people to like cheat, we can simply say, okay, encrypt it. And if I do the same thing, I have to reset my score because set save score. Let's say we have 15 this time, saving. And if we look at the content, oops, didn't work. What did I make? Save. Did I save? You know what? We're going to put like a little check. Yeah, okay. This time I saved. So you can see that there's a bunch of binary, and you cannot definitely like edit it manually like this because of the encryption. So let's load it now. We're going to do the exact opposite. So we're just going to say we want to retrieve the path of that, and we're going to load it. Load, and load only takes one parameter, if I'm not mistaken. There you go. And all good. So now if I look at the save our score, there's nothing. If I load and I look at the score, we have 15. Let's make it a bit more obvious. So we're going to create like a little toast. Let's put it here. So our toast, not a toad, our toast is going to use a text. We're going to put it top right. Position. Top right of the camera. We're going parent camera, main camera. We're going to give it a scale. It's a 4, but we don't want to use the parent space for the scale. Or even like actually the position. So parent space none. We have a scale. We can put a color. Why not? Green. You know what? Let's put a color like this. And we're just going to see if it works. Like string equal test me. Let's see if it works. So we have this object create toast. Oops, the scale is definitely not. Let's use parent spacing. None. And we also want smoothing false. There we go. Let's try this again. Okay, we have our toast. We're going to say you're going to move like down, and you're going to have an fx, which is fade out, fade out, fade out, slot list. Ourself, we are type alpha, and time, let's say 1 second, and and end value. We're removing the entire alpha. The curve by default is linear, which is fine. And here we're going to say once our fx is done, just get deleted. Let's create a toast. Okay, we're going to make it a bit more like go a bit faster, and 0.5 seconds. Okay, so now we have a toast. We're going to create 2 toasts, like one for saved and one for loaded. Saved color is going to be red, and the text, the string is going to be saved, and loaded, the color is going to be green, and the string loaded. Okay, and now we are just simply going to go into our code here and aux object Oh my god, I don't know how to type. Create from config loaded and here saved. Let's try this. Okay, now we have a more visual indicator. Let's do the same thing for our score. So we're going to display our score. Same thing, it's going to be its own graphic. It's going to be a text. And the string by default is just going to be score. We're going to put it bottom right, bottom left, and we're going to align our bottom left to it. Bottom left. I could have done the same thing actually. Top, right. Let's use those fancy features. Scale 4. I could have actually inherited, but it's okay. We are almost there anyway. Smoothing false. And okay, now we just want a track list to update it. It's going to be ourselves because we're a bit lazy today. We're going to loop, and every frame we're going to get save score, and we're going to object set text of ourselves score with a score. Okay, so here we should have our score as soon as we load it, and we don't see. So what did I make? Oh, I forgot to create the score. Okay, I'm not good at doing this live. Okay, and we're going to create our score. I don't see the score. Oh, it's in the middle. Why is it in the middle? I didn't give it a camera. Is it? No, I did not. Parent camera. I should really have inherited from the toast. Oh well. Main camera and use parent space. None. There we go. If I load our score, it's 15. If I set our score, save score with 20 points, it's there. If I save it, and I go back, and I come back here, and I load it, it's 20. So, you know what? In the init, we're just going to load our score. Good. Okay, so here we should get our info using the config. As you can see, it works. So we have like a basic framework to play with. So using the config is really nice for all those properties that are already stored in config, especially because properties can be used like directly from UI elements, for example, or like gameplay elements. And using the config as a central repository is very handy. But let's say that you want to generate maps and you want to save the map in binary format. Config might not be the best way for this. So let's pretend we're going to do this now. So we're not going to put it in the application subdirectory. We're just going to put it next to the executable, for example, or like in the sub folder of the executable. Let's pretend we're working on desktop and we don't have any limitation for this. What we're going to do is we're going to use a resource system. So with the resource system, we have two functions that are locate. We have locate and locate in storage. Locate will locate an existing resource. If the resource does not exist, it will tell you, no chance, I cannot find it. If you say locate in storage, and if it cannot find the resource, in the specific storage you give it, it's going to create that resource and you can write to it. So if you don't give a storage, it's going to use the highest priority storage, which is the first one defined in the resource section. So here, let's say I'm going to have like a new map, and I want to save my map in a folder called maps, one folder up from the bin. Okay, that's very simple. So what we're going to do now, for the save, we're going to say locate in storage. I want to use the map group that I just created. The storage, I'm going to give it aux null, so it's going to use the highest one here, so the first one defined in this list. What's next? I want the name of, let's call it level 12.map. Okay. And location. If we have a location, we are going to open that resource. Oh, I should probably, yeah. We are going to do args resource open location. Oops. And here in the location, we can say erase mode or not. If we say not, I mean that it's not going to create a resource or erase it if it doesn't exist. If you say true, well, it's going to like go into write mode and completely eradicate that resource, which is what we want to do during the save. So here we're going to say yes, please do. And this is going to be our resource. So now, if our resource is not an undefined handle, we're going to work with it. I mean, that has been opened. So we can write to it, args resource write. And let's pretend that we're going to write like, I don't know, like a U32. So value and I don't know. Okay, why not? That's our map for some reason. So here we're going to say the size. Here the size is 4. We're going to give the buffer, which is the value. And then we can give it a callback and a construct for that callback. This callback is only if we want to do asynchronous write. If we give it a callback, the write is going to be performed on a separate thread. And once the write has been performed, we're going to be notified on the main thread, the one where we just called the resource write. We're going to be notified that the write has been over. If we do not pass a callback, it's going to be in synchronous mode. I mean, that is going to be a blocking call. That's what we're going to do right now. So we're just going to block. And we're going to, we can even verify that it worked. If we've wrote something, actually, you know what? We can even verify that we've wrote all 4 bytes. We are going to create our saved as a confirmation. Well, okay, saved as a confirmation. We did right. We need to close the resource. And I believe we have everything for a save. Okay, let's verify this. Yep, that worked. We got saved. And now we should have like a new folder that's been created called maps. And we have a level 12 map. Let's look at what's in the level 12 map. Okay, that's not exactly what we want here, unless xv4 0x12, that's not correct. What did I mess up here? We did write 4 bytes. It said okay, so maybe just, you know what? Let's use a proper X editor to make sure that I messed up or not. Okay. Oh, it's too small. Can you read? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, it just maps to xv4. Okay, that was unfortunate. I should have picked a different kind of pattern. But okay, it's saved correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. As you can see, it's Little Indian. I'm on a Little Indian machine, but everything has been saved correctly. Maybe I should like write something like I don't know. Code beef. Okay, that's much easier to see. And here, okay, well, anyway, it works. That's the important part. We can verify that it works when we load. For loading, we're just going to do the exact opposite. We're going to say, you know what, we can copy because it's going to be very symmetrical. And then we're going to replace one by one. So instead of locating storage, this time we want to locate it. And so locate is going to not get a storage there, but we want to locate inside our map resource, we want to locate a level 12 map. And if we find the location, we're going to open it. We don't open it in write mode this time, otherwise we're going to erase it. We're going to open it like in read only. And if we can open it, and we're going to retrieve the value. So if we can open it, we're going to read it. And here we're going to, I don't know, like aux a8 buffer of 4 buffer, and same thing. We can have the read asynchronous by providing a callback, but right now we want it to be blocking, so we put null, and here we say loaded, and we're going to close. That should do the trick. Let's see. Let's verify we can load. Yeah, and we're going to verify the content of it. So let's put a breakpoint. So our buffer right now should memory. It's uninitialized. In debug it's CC. In release it would be whatever is in the memory there. And let's put it as there we go. Much easier to see. Okay, we were able to read, and you can see here that we have our code beef back from the resource, and then we create our object, our little loaded one. So here we serialize binary data that we wrote to a file that we located through the resource system, and the resource system allows us not only to find it from disk, but we could find it from like any other type of resource, like from a remote resource, from a bundle, from a package, a zip file. If you use the archive one, you can write your own type of resource, and you will not have to change this whatsoever. The resource system is going to do the whole multiplexing, and it's going to check all the different kind of resources that exist. And once it will find the level 12 map, it will load it and process it for you. So even if it's use the aux remote to read it from the web server, or if you use the bundle application to read it from the bundle, it will still work with that code, and you don't have to change it. Obviously, you could also like use the low-level file module, like by doing aux file open, aux file read. It's like those are the same code, but instead of being resources, it would be file. But this is low level, and it will only handle the file system. It will not be able to handle like bundle, in-memory bundle, like file bundle, like remote resources, or anything. Whereas the resources will do that for you, and it will also provide the option to do it asynchronously on a separate thread, which is like important if you have like a very big binary data. Let's say your map are like hundreds of megabytes. You don't want it to be blocking. You want it to be performed on a separate thread and be notified by the callback later on. And given that we already passed 1 hour, unless you want me to dig deeper, I will just ask if you have any questions.
There is something that was said. Someone said it should be noted that Android does not allow writing/deleting resources.
Right, that's why I mentioned desktop for the last one, yeah. So here, when we're writing to map, it's for desktop. You cannot do that on iOS or Android. You can write resources in the application save folder. You can actually combine here. So instead of having like the located in storage here, I can use the aux file get application subdirectory, and I can use this as a path for my resource, and I can still use a resource there, but it will only work with that specific path, right? It's not going to work with any other kind of resources, but I can put that path as part of the resources, or I can add it programmatically at the init, for example, like if I were in the bootstrap here, we could do aux resource add storage for the map resource, and aux file get application subdirectory with no extra parameters, and at first true. So by doing this, I would use the application subdirectory as a storage location for my map, and I would be able to read it from here. So here, for example, I don't even have to do this anymore. It's going to use the application subdirectory, and it should work the same, but this time, instead of being saved in the map folder, it's going to be saved in a place where it can be serialized. Like, oh, it's, wait, let me kill this. There we go, very good. Okay. Oh, wait. There you go. This time you should be able to get away. Okay, if I did not botch this, and I did apparently, didn't. Oh, okay. So here, locate in storage. We're going to use the storage. Okay, let's see if it works. This was not planned, but let's see if that works. We're going to save it. It says saved. And loading. Let's see if our buffer is going to be retrieving data. It does retrieve data. And now if we look at, oops. So instead of looking for live save, it's called live map, right? Live 12, it wasn't live 12 map, I called it. Level 12 map. Huh. Level 12 map. And you can see that it's been stored in the app data roaming. So here I combined the fact that we're using a place where we are allowed to save by the OS, no matter the platform, to the resource system. With the resource system, sorry. Any other questions on this?
I currently do not see any, but everyone should know that they're welcome to ask questions within the Discord at any time.
Exactly. And if you have any questions regarding orcs that are not on today's topic, that's also totally fine. You can ask any question that are orcs related, and I will try my best to answer them. Well, I'll take that as a no then. Well, thank you for joining us today, and I wish you all a good day, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Have a good one.
Have a good night. Thanks again.
Thank you. Good night. Good day, everybody.